Trustee Barry.
We heard from the committee, and it was very loud and clear, yes, we need money, and we know we need money. But I won't be ready to vote at the April meeting because I want to know what we're spending on, because that would make a difference which way, I would vote. So I definitely agree with Trustee Watts and Trustee Petrikov that we probably need to get together again to have some of these questions answered and to see what we're gonna do. If we're gonna ask the community for $250 million, I want to know what we're gonna spend the money on before I can make a decision.
Okay, so does everybody have can we pick a date when we would have another meeting? Go ahead, I'm
Can
sorry.
I just mention though, for the timeline, what might be helpful is we do have the April 11th meeting. We could get the data and information and continue the study session, and then maybe have, in the interim, we can do a survey too. It won't be like a Zogby, well, that level, because, you'll have certain capability, and then we could look at a couple of town halls if we did a study session, not right away because we're going into spring break, but if we separate that after the main board meeting, it would give us some more time if you want us to do that. Then we would have that capability to get out, right, David? I think in the community, do you think that that is doable?
I think that would help. I agree with Trustee Mosup and Trustee Watts. If you recall, in 2017, when we changed the high school boundaries, that's exactly what we did. We had 3 different plans. We brought them out to the community. We had about 35 community meetings. We brought back then to the board which plans the community really were in favor of. The board did some tweaking, as it is your right to do, and actually it's your responsibility to do, and I commend all of you for doing that. And then we had a boundary plan. In 2019 bond, we had probably about 30 community meetings with the bond, but again, it was after this was the proposal. So I truly support the idea of
seeking help.
Getting out to the community before a final plan is put together. Dr. Maleko, yes, I think we can start that process before the April board meeting and continue it afterwards. And if the board then felt more comfortable in May, giving some definitive direction, at least we would have that time in April to seek that input from the community, which would go a long way in helping us in our communication plan of sharing that information with the residents. So I'm in support of everything the board and Dr. Maleko has been saying.
Trustee Thorpe.
So I think I would put this out as a proposal. Our next regular scheduled board meeting is April 11th. What if we made that the study session and we switched a board meeting to April 25th? So we aren't taking too much time, but we're getting the information. Because April 11th, we do have spring break next week, which would give us that following 1 week before we're back for our next regularly scheduled board meeting. I don't know that that's enough time for them to get us the information. I don't know what's happening with administration on spring break.
Trustee Thorpe, if I may, I would say keep the meeting and then have the study session later. And so it gives them time to give us.
We need to get this going as soon as possible. And that's where I'm thinking that if the April board meeting was moved back and we've already got the 11th, it's just an idea that I was wondering about.
Trustee Watts.
I guess we could ask Mr. Wall, what sort of time frame would you need? You tell us, and then we can adjust.
I believe the facility study will be done next week, and it potentially could be vetted at that point too. So over spring break, we're still working, so we can finish that up next week and then have it out to the board for their review.
So if we were to take April 11th as a study session, and then take what I'm hearing, I think what Trustee Thorpe is saying, take April 11th, turn the P12 board meeting into a study session, and then use April 25th
It's the regular.
as the regular meeting. Is that what I'm understanding?
That's what I'm saying, because I don't know if we're gonna wanna try to do something between, I'm gonna say the 5th and the 8th of April. I don't mention the 4th because I know some of us are still coming back from a conference.
Trustee Thorpe, or Trustee Barry, I'm sorry.
What I'm hearing from Mr. Wall and Mr. Mustonen is August is too late. definitely too late. That gives you a couple months to go do like a year's work. I mean, I've ran campaigns, it's just impossible, okay? June, July, we know where our parents are, they're in vacation mode. So trying to reach out to them, they're gonna say, oh, spirit of transparency, you're trying to trick us. You waited for us till the school's out, we're in Florida, we're up north or whatever, and you try to pull this off. So at the latest, you're gonna want something from us at the May meeting. Is what I'm hearing, at the latest.
In reality, that would be the best.
If we don't get it
scenario.
out to you by the May meeting, then you know what, let's just scratch November of 2022 and maybe start talking about dates, because we gotta do this right this time. Start talking about dates in the future. I agree with, I think it was trustee Thorpe. This discussion is a little more important than our regular business meeting. But if there's something that's, needs to be on, you know, some business needs to be taken care of, you could throw it on there, but we don't need to get into everything else that's gonna take, because there's no way we're gonna sit here for 5-6 hours, and by the time the end of the meeting, we're drained, and, you know, we're gonna start. We don't wanna go that route, so I would agree with trustee Watts and trustee Thorpe.
So procedurally, what we could do with hearing all of this is if we clear the agenda for the 11th and make it more of a study session, but if there's some sensitive action items that I still need to take, we've taken action items to the study sessions in the past, like the Salina air conditioning 1 year, and I think we did under your presidency. Remember, we had to approve the Zoom and the Schoology when we were dealing with that. We did it during a study
You
session.
gotta remind me of that?
Yeah. But it was much needed, and that was done then with, that was a 7-hour meeting, by the way, I'm just saying.
That-
Nothing
We
precludes
need
our
you.
adding any
Yeah, so,
timely votes that are necessary.
the other thing we could do, and we'll put it out there if you know, to the pleasure of the board, if you wanted to move it up by an hour to 6, then we could not have committee meetings that evening, or some other time, it would give you more time. And then and then by the 11th, you could decide, do we need the 25th based on what we've given? In the interim, we'll get the report from Tom and what you need. And then we'll also talk to David about putting together some of the town halls, which David had talked to me about anyway. That was part of the plan, which I think is the right way to do it. And then I do agree, trustee Barry, with, after going through all that, if we're ready, we're ready, but if we're not, let's not rush it.
Yeah.
I think that we make a wise decision, let's not rush it. Let's make sure. Now, we know we also know there's some other competing factors like inflation and other things the longer you go. But if we're not ready, we're not ready. I'd rather us be ready and committed and know that this is what we want to do. So I think we can put it together in that time frame. But if, as we go through it, the board doesn't feel comfortable and we don't, and we need more information. I can also just say this thing too, the last comment I'll make is we need to be ready for the fact that no matter what we do, and we're gonna be very transparent, and we always are, and all our things are public record, there are gonna be people deliberately putting misinformation out there. So we've gotta counter that, you know, and that's why I only get into positive things on social media, but we have to accept that factor because it's done for many other things all the time. And so we have to understand and get in that mentality that that's gonna happen. We have to counter it with the truth and the ethics as we always do. And Mr. Wall, the integrity he has running as chief executive, I think the board, we're presenting at the national conference 4 meritorious awards. There's nothing other than transparency coming from him and from me and from the board. And so people that say otherwise, it's just misinformation. And I can detest it personally. And what I would say is, I think the community, yeah, you should be questioning. I think it's responsible. And we're responsible to provide that information, and we should be held accountable. And we take that on, but we also welcome that we need the opportunity to put the proper information out there. And when you have questions, that's fine, but we have to kind of have that going as well. So those are some procedures that I think if we go with, from what I'm hearing the board, if you're agreeable to that, if we could go to maybe 6 o'clock on the 11th.
Trustee Barry.
Dr. Maleko, if we don't get this bond passed, how do we do this? How do we try again?
Yeah.
It's gonna be, it's gonna be impossible, right? I think it'd be a good idea to go ahead and have a townhouse, like a face-to-face. Let's get all the angry people out, let's collect all the information, then we can put a plan, and moving forward, how do we combat that? So, the sooner the better. I know there's something going on tomorrow night,
That's what I thought there was a town
but
hall tomorrow.
from what I'm hearing from community members, like, it's on Zoom, it's,
Yeah.
this, that, whatever. Is it on Zoom?
Yeah,
We didn't even
and
talk about that.
The meeting for tomorrow was never intended to be a full-blown town hall meeting because I did not want to have a town hall meeting without having direction from the board. I thought it would be improper of me to assume that the board had a decision. That would
Okay.
not be proper
Fair enough.
protocol. The reason for tomorrow's meeting is for everyone, I've been looking at the Facebook, who are watching on Facebook. I didn't look who was watching on YouTube, but the audience size tonight has been extremely small. And so I wanted to make sure that we had another opportunity tomorrow night for residents to hear what took place tonight, to provide an update of what took place tonight, solicit some questions so we can answer them, solicit some feedback, some online feedback, and start that process. This is just step one of many, many steps to come, and that's what is taking place tomorrow at 6:30 on Facebook and YouTube.
Okay. So if I'm hearing everyone right, we're moving the 11th meeting to a study session starting at 6 o'clock. And then we will have, and if need be, we will have action items on that agenda. And then we will add an additional meeting on the 25th as a regular board meeting.
If needed, I think.
If it may not be needed if there's not much that needs to be actioned, and we can do it on the 11th.
There's
Trustee
always
Mazza.
more information. There's always enough stuff for
No,
another
it-
board
it's-
meeting.
You
I
just like
suggested,
reading, don't you?
I
No.
suggested this twice in this meeting, and I don't know why it's not being considered, or is it being considered? I don't think it was mentioned in the summary as far as the online survey. If that could be done, and it could be open-ended. I would love to hear that.
Yeah,
I Yeah, mentioned
it's- that.
We are.
Got it?
I said that we would
Yep,
do
I
that.
Okay,
wrote
sorry,
it down.
Yeah, he
I've-
said he would
I've
get
had
started
a
on it.
number of hours of sleep, so I.
All of us.
I took that from you, and we said it wouldn't be the same in-depth as a Zogby, we had. that
No,
covered,
yes,
But it would, we
yes,
can
I would
definitely do
like
that.
them to, I would like this online survey to be promoted as well, and be like, what would you like? And also ask them the same question that you asked the VIP committee, is what is an acceptable amount of mills that you're willing to pay? And perhaps you could have like a link, here is if you don't understand, because it is a complex topic. It took me a while to understand it as even a new board trustee of how mills work, as a new resident versus old resident. It's a very, very complex situation. So I'd like even us to educate residents on this. And again, to solicit that feedback to community organizations, community groups, PTAs, everybody that we can touch, not just angry parents and people who are, gonna tell us that all the negative things. We will hear from parents that we may not anticipate, or stakeholders of this community that perhaps we don't hear a lot from, but they do go to the ballot box and they do vote.
Absolutely.
And I would like to hear their suggestion and take that into consideration, so they say, yes, this board actually listened and they took our suggestions, and at least we could reach a middle ground. The other thing that I'd like to mention, I know we're talking about just, on the taxpayers, but this is for further, not for this meeting, further down the line of how do we become, it's the same question that we have for Henry Ford College. I know we exhausted all of the options as far as contributions to this. How do we bring in more revenue to the school? One idea that I had, and I've been contemplating on it now that we have the K-12 virtual academy, or we're not calling it virtual academy, we're calling it virtual program.
School.
No, it's virtual school.
Virtual school for DPS. And I know we're only now accepting students who are in Dearborn, who are living in Dearborn, correct?
Correct.
So we could entertain the thought of accepting students who are out of the district. If that could be possibly open. I know we're a closed district, but if we were to enroll students out of the district only to the virtual program, not to all of DPS. Yeah, not to the in person. if they can, like, they're in Detroit or they're in a different community and they would like to enroll in Dearborn because Dearborn has, it's not just the virtual academies that we know of, it's canned construction. No, we do actually have live Dearborn teachers who are teaching this curriculum. And they have a lot of after-school activities, and we saw our last meeting when they presented their school mascot. So how much of revenue are we gonna expect if we open it up? And actually the foundation would come to us if we were to enroll other students, and if we would say it's open for I would like to research that to see, and perhaps get a pulse of how much enrollment do we need, because that is, perhaps, it's not gonna be a sizable in millions, but it's gonna be a sizable amount of, because I've heard a lot of nearby communities, they wanna get into Dearborn, but they don't live in Dearborn. And I tell them, I'm sorry, it is a closed district. But if they have the opportunity to attend the K-12, I mean, that could be an option where we can compete regionally and attract new students. That's one thing. The other thing is, and I know we work closely with the foundation, but we have so many different amazing people who have went through our schools and have done great things and obviously made it well in business, and they're perhaps millionaires.
Don't leave you.
We need to reactivate the arm of philanthropy and to see if we can get, not just the Bram Mr. Bram, who's giving a lot of scholarships to our students. Some people who might giving a lot of their, wealth back to the schools as they do for universities. We've heard about sizable donations. My former CEO of our company gave $25 million to one department, computer science department at Wayne State University. And that's one donation from one person. So I'd say let's think of outside the box, not just relying on our residents, but even going and reaching out to folks who have gone through these and they have a soft heart for Dearborn and they may give back. But I'll leave that to the administration to look into that.
Dr.
And what we
Malenko,
can
I
do.
think, wanted to add something.
Just, and I know it's been a long meeting, but just on the virtual, administration has been having some discussions on that for the virtual school and Ms. Peterson, and it has come up through the cabinet for discussion. And with Mr. Mashur, there was actually some documents that are actually being put together between Dr. Chokol and Ms. Peterson right now to consider a virtual. Other districts do this, and it's something though that we would have to proceed cautiously initially because we want to make sure that it makes sense economically, financially, excuse me. Thank you. Because there's going to be a point where you want to accept some, but you don't want to create a staffing situation for yourself, and we want to make sure that we take care of all of our current Dearborn resident students that want the virtual. Now, we are predicting that the number in that school will go down, and I think Mr. Mashur may have mentioned. So once we get that enrollment, we can determine the number of spots, and if it's something we could consider like we do on a limited basis. For example, we do allow those that have staff members that have someone can be out of district, and so we could consider this for a specific school. But other districts do it, and you might remember prior to us bringing this in, there were students that we would send to other districts, and those districts would get the foundation money. So it is another opportunity. I don't think it's going to be necessarily a huge fix, but it definitely is the ability to draw more. And because our teachers are high quality, and the fact that we are employing our teachers with our curriculum, but then you got to look at the cost factor. So there's more information to study on it, but I think it's definitely worth the exploration.
Trustee Barry.
Let's end on a great note. The reason we're all here is for our students, and we have a student still with us in this room. She deserves a day off tomorrow.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, I know you're going to leave, but I want to ask you, was this a good experience? Was it worth your time? Did you get any value out of it serving on this committee?
I think kind of like as a high school student, I think did benefit me.
Yes.
Seeing the behind the scenes of district being ran, and yeah.
When I was your age, I didn't even know there was a school board. I didn't, know there was a superintendent. I didn't even meet my principal until graduation day, so, but the last.
Did he try to come across the key? Is that when you met your principal?
Be nice.
I never apologize.
Do you feel that this 7 elected board members valued your recommendation?
Like out of just this meeting?
Yes.
I think they do. Like they're taking in consideration of like students also, not just like parents and like money wise. Because wait.
I was referring to the committee, your recommendation from the committee. Do you feel like, you heard our discussions, do you feel that there was value for your recommendation? Do us a favor, reach out to the other members and tell them that, because they're probably feeling low right now, like they just wasted their time. You heard a couple of,
Students?
not just the students, some of the parents. I don't know if you have email addresses, maybe through Dave Mustonen, Mr. Mustonen, you can send an email on your behalf and say, I sat through the meeting, and guess what? Yes, they valued the recommendation, and our work was well worth the time. Thank you very much, and best wishes
Thank
to
you.
you.
I'm gonna leave right now.
Trustee
Now you
Mazza?
can leave. Now you're excused.
Thank you on that, and Trustee Barry, thank you for that reminder. And I would love to, when we do this survey, we would push it to our students as well. We want them to be included, and we want to hear from them, because it is their schools and they're going through it, even elementary. Ask elementary students, perhaps it could be a different survey for them to be in very, in their level. But I would love to hear from everybody, including our students who we put as first. Thank you.
Okay. Now, we have direction. Everybody knows where they're going and where we're going to be next.
going.
Okay, then I think we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for your time.